it stands alone. Like, it works beautifully as a film by itself. Like, you don't have, it's not like a shorthand for the book. It's its own thing. But at the same time, it is so faithful to the heart of the book and everything that I wanted the book to say. You know, I think everybody could use some extra hope and validation and to be seen, you know, like basically these kids deserve a win. They do.
We adapted Becky's beautiful book into this movie, and it was sort of a dream job because the book was already so incredible, and our job was really just to figure out how to honor what she did and preserve her beautiful work and put it on its feet.
The reason that we wanted to do this is the producers told us there'd never been a major studio that made a movie with a gay teen as its lead. And when we found that out, we thought that's ridiculous. It's 2018. This movie has to exist. And I think its representation is so important. You know, for all the straight kids out there, they get to go watch a high school movie that reflects their experience and just like a fun, glossy studio movie. And for gay kids, that has not existed up until this point. And we thought it was long overdue, so we had to do it. I mean, Jack Antonoff, who we've been obsessed with before this, for a very long time, is just so cool and so perfect. He loves kind of like the John Hughes 80s nostalgic high school vibe that we were all going for, and he and Greg hit it off. And so the fact that he was able to kind of curate this movie and contribute so many original songs, it just took it to the next level.
I mean, as soon as we saw Nick's audition, we were sort of like, that is Simon. And that was the feeling we had with every member of this cast. It really was like taking what we envisioned in our minds and then giving us something even better.
It really reminded me of so many of the films that I grew up with in the 80s that were coming-of-age stories that felt anthemic and iconic and really emotional and funny. And then the fact that it had a gay protagonist, I was a closeted gay teenager and never felt like I had our story represented and wanted to be a part of that. What I'd like to convey is that the best being yourself is the hardest thing to figure out, but once you figure it out, how to be yourself and how to announce that to the world is when your life gets great. And so, and that's how you'll meet allies and you'll meet the people you're supposed to fall in love with and just hang in there. All the films I grew up with in the 80s, they just had cassette tapes I would carry around with me and play the music again and again. So we always knew we wanted that. And then we had a song from Jack Antonoff and the Bleachers in the film, and he checked out the movie and he loved it. And he said, I want to offer more songs. And so he brought his iPhone in and started playing songs against picture, and that's sort of how we came up with the soundtrack.
I play Nick Eisner, and I'm Simon's best friend, and I'm in love with Abby, and I let him know that. But in order for him to keep his secret, he has to lie and manipulate all of us into this whole giant love fest. No pun intended. I mean, we've seen movies in the past that show the gay protagonist and what it feels like and their struggles, which is Pariah, Coming by Your Name, Moonlight. But this is the first time that we see it, and it's, accessible to mainstream America for everyone to see. I mean, there's things that start the movement, and those are pioneers, but this is a pioneer within itself just because it's finally bringing it to such a vast audience.
I think at its core, Love, Simon is a love story, and that was something that for me was really beautiful when I was reading the script, was how joyous it was, but then also its uniqueness in being told through this lens. Love, Simon, it's the first time a major studio has made a coming-of-age love story about a gay teenage protagonist. I think a film like this has always been important. Representation, whether it's sexual orientation or gender or race, it's crucial to see people who look like you and hear your stories. One of the most amazing things has been the response to the film so far. It's not even premiered yet, and just from the screenings we felt so much love and so many people who have truly resonated with this. So hopefully this film can kind of be a good sort of starting off point a good starting off point for more kind of films to be made like this.
I play Bram, who's one of sort of Simon's friends at high school, and just I suppose like all the characters trying to figure themselves out, and a potential love interest for Simon as he's figuring out who is it he's in love with. I mean, it's important for it to come out at any time. I think what makes it important is that it hasn't come out yet, and there's a world of people trying to figure themselves out, and that need to know that they're not alone, and that need to know that they're perfect the way that they are. So it was just a matter of time. But for me, it makes me happy. I think it shows that we're heading in the right direction.
My character's named Martin Addison, and he is a very socially inept, but also very boisterous kind of person. He doesn't really understand the ins and outs of what it's like to be normal, as is most of the people in this movie, but he takes it a step further. And, he might get in a little bit of trouble along the way, but he ultimately learns what the right thing to do is by the end of it. Just socially, I think that it's a very important story to tell. It's a story of acceptance, and that one person's story is just as important as all the others, and that we can all kind of come together as a community and just learn to love each other. Yeah, the music's killer. I mean, I remember seeing the final cut and seeing all the different musicians that were a part of it, and it made me feel really special because it's got a kind of John Hughes-esque movement towards it, and he had great music in all of his films, and I'm glad that we're able to kind of pay homage to him in that way.
My character's name is Nora. She's Simon's little sister, and I feel like she really brings out the happiness in their family because she's super bubbly and still really young and innocent, and Simon's going through this phase where he doesn't really know who he is, so I think she just helps him feel comfortable around his family. I love Greg. He's amazing. He let us completely improv on set and add everything we wanted to the character. He let us just completely freestyle. There were some scenes where we didn't even have any lines, and we just made it into a whole other scene, and it was just really incredible. He's a great director.